Are you ready to overcome the complexities and burdens that come with your success? Join the team at Centura Wealth Advisory in the Live Life Liberated podcast. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Live Life Liberated with the team from Centura Wealth Advisory. Joining me now, Derek Myron and Sean Clark. Derek, what are you guys going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about our service model here for Centura Wealth Advisory and how we serve ultra high net worth families. And so today it's how to deliver financial services well to these ultra high net worth families, described as net worths 20 million and higher, 2 million, incomes 2 million and higher. And looking forward to the discussion today, RJ.
I am too. It's because you're in a stratosphere that I only can look at and admire.
Well, let's see if we can enlighten the audience today. So the folks that would be well served in listening to this are those folks that meet those descriptions and the professional community who serve those folks. And today I welcome Sean Clark with me. He's been at the firm since 2017. Sean, welcome.
Thank you, Derek. Glad to be here.
So we'll skip over the legalese, but Sean and I have been working together for 7-8 years now, and really enjoy Sean. Sean is actually one of the funniest guys here at Centura. At all 50 employees, he's got to be number one and number two. He's absolutely hilarious. So looking forward to getting into it today, Shawnee.
Sounds good.
So the value proposition, we exclusively serve C-level executives and founder-led business owners, and they have to have the $2 million of income, 20 million net worth, and then business owners are broken into two categories. One that's planning on selling within the next 5 years, we call it business owner disposition, and those that are planning on selling their business 5 years and beyond. So those are really kind of the three profiles, C-level executives, and the two different profiles for founder-led business owners that our services, planning and investment services, really work well for. And so that's who we target with our offerings. And let me pivot it over to Sean, talk about who gets what.
Yeah, so I think, of the folks that work with us in different ways, probably 90%, like 9 out of 10 use our planning services, right? I think they get value out of that. We call it project work, but that's where we're really digging into what their situation is and designing solutions. We call it above the line planning. And, I'd say 9 out of 10 are there. Pretty much every one of our clients uses investment management services. I think that's a 10 out of 10. So anybody we work with is utilizing us for investments. We'll talk about the value we provide there. And then I think by virtue of planning and also looking at the investment world, life insurance is another thing that comes into our world. And there's probably 60% of folks that would utilize that, I think, based on our data and experience and clientele.
I think those are pretty darn good numbers. So let's talk about it. We call planning here at our firm the Liberated Wealth Planning Process, and this Liberated Wealth Planning Process can deliver exponential returns for these kinds of folks, exponential outcomes for these kinds of folks. And planning is very difficult to do, and we're talking about this above line planning, this income tax planning, wealth transfer planning, and balance sheet optimization. Those are the core main three things that we do. There's some other things in there, but those are the things that we see how we can really add exponential value. So we want to see at least a 5x return on all the professional fees that they pay to deliver to them in income tax mitigation strategies. And we only accept clients where we can see that we can get outcomes of 5, 10, 15, 20x or more. And the reason we do that is our experience is they become raving fans early in the process. By month 3, month 6, month 9, they're telling, if they're a person that refers, they're telling their friends and neighbors, hey, I got a guy and you should come see our team. And on the other side of it, on the investment management side, they might refer, but it could be 5 or 10 years because they're like, look, even though you've done an unbelievable job, everybody has an investment person or two.
Yeah.
And I think that plays into it. Like everybody has that. And so, I don't know. Our experience is on the planning side, they'll tell people if you save them $1 million or $5 or $10 million, they're pretty darn excited about it, and they tell other people.
I call it the cocktail party stuff, right? That's the stuff they tell their friends about. They talk about at parties, dinner, those kinds of things, because it's pretty immediate. Within 12, maybe 18 months, you're getting money back in your pocket, 5, 10x what you're putting into it in ways that nobody else has told you. So my experience has been that they tell their friends and tell their professionals, and we get referrals out of that quite a bit.
Absolutely. I think the other byproduct of it is that the centers of influence, or the professionals that serve that client, they get to see the work, and it's a different experience. They're like, wow, that is a different experience than I've seen elsewhere. And, like any, getting a great outcome is usually the byproduct of a great process.
Yep.
And so we have great processes to deliver these outcomes, and we're picky about who we bring on, because if we don't think we can get those kind of outcomes, it's disservice to that client, and it's a disservice to us, because we want to focus where we can add the most value to folks.
I think that's important, right? When we think about, we don't just take everybody, like to your point, there's people where we maybe get 1x, 2x what they would, pay us to do the work. And, that's cool and all, but it's not the 5x, the 10x, the 15x, right? And I think skilled labor, skilled expertise, being able to apply it where it has the most value is kind of what we've been able to do successfully. But to your point, we're very choosy on who we work with. And when we choose to work with somebody, we're pretty darn confident we can add significant value to them.
I 100% agree with that. I think the other thing is, I think it's well received when we come back and share with them, look at this. The reason why we're declining to offer an engagement here is because we don't see the value here, and we'll offer to refer you out to a network of people that we know do great work, don't have the same overhead, don't have the same cost structure, and can do it at cheaper rates. And they're very appreciative of that. I mean, 95% of the time, they're great. And we don't get anything out of it other than we just want them well served. Somebody sent them to us. We want them to get well served somewhere else at a reasonable price.
And they're appreciative for that, right? Very. Every time I've seen that happen in our meetings or whatever, people are like, what, thank you. I'll hit you guys up when it's the right time or something like that. But I think they appreciate that.
100%. So very, very transparent about where we think we can add value and when we think we can't. And so that's the model. It generates referrals by them. It generates referrals by the professionals that serve them. And what we're doing when we meet with that client for the first time, or that prospect, is we are wanting to understand their pain points. So they take a first meeting with us. They start telling us, they spend about 30 minutes sharing with us, up to 30 minutes, what their pain points are. We then take the balance of the meeting to share with them. We can then cater our message. Here's how we can help. And we then show them our process. Here's our process. We walk them right through the process. I'm not going to bore you with exactly, because that takes 10 or 12 minutes to walk through that. But we share them exactly what our process is. At the end of that meeting, we then are going to send them a handful of things. We take meeting notes at every meeting. What we think they said, what we think we said. One of our core values here is transparency. And what we think follow-ups are for both sides. We're going to deliver them those meeting notes. We're going to deliver them a document request. The document request is going to be a personal financial statement, a PFS, and then somewhere between 2 to 10 tax returns that we're going to need in order for us to do our analysis. So we're going to send them meeting notes, document request, and a secure file invite to upload those documents. Once they upload those documents, and there's no cost to any of this, they upload those documents, we download those documents. There's 3 levels of review in putting that into our system. And as soon as they send us those documents, we need 1 week to do that 3 levels of review. We'll then hold the second meeting. It's the same meeting agenda every single time. Here's our findings. It's going to be a bunch of questions to make sure that we confirm our understanding. Here's the value prop that we think that we can generate based on our findings. And here's our fee structure. And it's yes or no. Yes, I want to move forward, or I need more information, or no, I don't. And that's it. We don't. That's the end. And if we don't think that the findings can generate 5x, then that's where we set. Here's where we think you should go. Here's the 1 firm or 2 firms we think you should go to get these needs met.
Yeah, we have a pretty good feel on where we can add value and how. And when we find that right fact pattern, the right situation, the right goals, we're pretty darn confident. And if that doesn't line up, right, it kind of resolves its own way. But I think that process validates both for us and for the client that this is a good fit.
Right. So let's say they say yes, and we're going to move forward. Our typical meeting cadence is every 3 weeks. And we define planning work into project work and then the maintenance work. And planning is not super scalable because you're doing different things for different people. I mean, some of the discovery is the same, but once you get past discovery and you get down to the scope of solutions that need to be modeled, it starts going in a variety of different ways.
Yep. Even the same solutions can go different ways, right? It could be the same topical solution, but the different nuances in different ways they vary.
That's right. So the first step in our process is to understand in that discovery process, getting down to the facts, the assumptions, and the goals. And the goals are far and away the most important. And I often describe goal setting process as if Sean asks me what's important to me and he writes it down, I feel heard. If he asks me the why behind the why, I want to own a home in the mountains because my kids like to snowboard. They're going off to college. I feel like my wife and I feel like that's the biggest magnet possible to bring them, their friends, significant others home so we can make memories together. And most financial advisors would ask, how much is it going to cost? When are you going to buy it? Where is it? All that stuff. I don't really care about that. But if Sean asks me the why behind the why is that important? Oh, it's about making family memories. I feel understood. And if Sean can come back and say to my wife and I, our goals better than I can say them myself, you've probably earned the leadership position to give me advice because I really feel heard, understood, and wow, you seem to know me better than I can say it myself. So I think that's the most important part about that discovery process. Step 2 is we then get down to what are the solutions that we should look at. I'm going to skip over getting the right team together, but we get the right team together. There's a process around how to make sure that we have the right people on the team. Who do we need to augment on the team? And then we start designing solutions for them. And we often hear this project phase. How is it going to take you 3 months, a year, 2 years? How long is it going to take? So our clients, I split clients into 2 camps. We have half of the clients that are willing to do the work in the off time. Because after every meeting, we're saying, here's a podcast we want you to listen to. Here's a white paper we want you to read. Here's a webinar we want you to watch. The people who do that work, they then go do some internet work. When they come to the meeting, they're already at second base. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to tell me all that stuff. Here are my 8 questions. Like, wow, awesome. Yeah. Is that your experience too?
Yeah, it just allows for a much more, meaningful conversation. We don't have to spend the time educating or talking through things. They've had the chance to do that on their own. They can formulate some questions, thoughts, concerns, whatever it might be, and then we can spend our time together very, valuably.
Yeah. The other half are too busy and they just want it spoon-fed to them. The first camp, we're going to get through project work much faster, 50% faster. The second camp is going to be slower. And it just depends, some people just have more money than time, or they just don't have the inclination. It's confusing. It's hard to read. Some of that stuff is. So it doesn't matter which camp you're in, but oftentimes they're saying, how long is this going to take? We don't really know because we don't know how fast we're going to get through the material. So we only want to do project work as long as we're making that 5X return. If we are not making minimum 5X, we want to, okay, let's stop doing that. And then let's just get down to maintenance work. And that work is just not scalable. We want to do it to make raving fans out of clients and to really be lead generation. It causes them and all the people, their advisors around them to say, these guys have a special thing over there. Well, we want to send people over there. So it really reduces our marketing effort. Pretty funny, right? Do amazing work and people will tell people.
Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, that's where our referrals that's how we get our clients, is through referrals, whether it's the clients or the professionals that serve them. Those are the folks who tell our story for us, and we end up getting the right fit of clients from that.
They're making the introductions to us.
Yep.
So we want to get through that as quickly as possible. It just depends on their goals and how much work they're doing outside of the meetings. And then we want to get it down to maintenance work. And the maintenance work is just what they need us to do. If they want us to help with tax organizers, there's a bunch of things that they want us to do to make their life easy. We're not trying to get a 5x return on that. We're just trying to make life simple for them.
Yeah, it's us spending the time doing all that administrative stuff and all of that, so that they don't have to. They can enjoy what they want to do and get their time back. So
yeah. So when you're doing the planning, investments invariably interlink into the planning. And this is where you spend a lot of time here, Sean.
That's correct.
Why don't you add some color around how do we do investment management here, and how does it add value to a client situation?
Sure. So just as you kind of said, investments really dovetail with the planning process. So with investments, there's asset allocation, which is what you're investing in, right? Stocks, bonds, alternative investments. But then there's asset location, which is where do you hold each of these different assets, right? What entity inside your estate, outside your estate, in retirement accounts or not? And those two things kind of need to go together. So we start with the planning, we get this customized planning process, and then that kind of gets the lay of the land in a lot of ways. And then we work on investments and we identify what does your investment situation look like? And just like with planning, it starts with goals. So we want to know what's important to people, what their experiences have been, what they've liked, what they've disliked, what they're trying to do, where they want to go, et cetera. Just really understand their situation and what is important to them. And then depending on the type of investment, whether it's public investments or alternative investments in the private markets, there's different ways we can add value, and I can expand upon that. But I think just to get started, investments really start to get integrated with the planning process pretty early.
Thank you for that, Sean. I just looked down at the agenda. There was another section I was supposed to cover before I passed it to you.
Oh, okay.
So let me just pivot to that real quick, and then I'll throw it right back. So hold that thought.
All right.
One thing I forgot to say is in the theme of transparency, in Q1, after every year of planning, we produce a planning report card. Well, what is that? It says, hey, last year, RJ, you may have engaged us in June of last year and you told us to accomplish these 3 things. We've gotten your draft tax returns here. What's been the outcome? And we implemented 3 strategies, and they A, B, and C strategy had accretion of saving $500,000, $400,000, $600,000. All in, it saved you in, we think, $1.5 million in tax. Here's what you paid the different professionals. $200,000, you had an 8x return on hard costs. Now, in soft costs, RJ, you had to spend time with us. You showed up to 8 meetings. That's the iceberg above the water. What was below the water that you may not have seen is we got together 8 times on case prep and case presentations to make sure we were prepared for that meeting. We also met with 5 or 6 times with your professionals that you weren't in those meetings. So these are the things that are happening that you're unaware of, or maybe unaware of. So these are the soft costs of what you're spending time. These are the other costs that you're possibly unaware that we're doing. And then we just ask for feedback, like, what did we do well? And what would you like to see us improve upon this next year? And whether we do it in person or whether we send it via DocuSign and they fill it out and send it back, we get invaluable feedback to make ourselves better. We're constantly on this journey to make the experience better. From there, we pivot to what's the scope for the next year? Based on what you told us, RJ, we think we should accomplish these 3 things. Here's the fee structure, and here's the frequency we're going to meet. We're going to continue to meet every 3 weeks for the next 6 to 9 months or a year, however long it needs to go to get the project work done. So I've just now put a bow on the planning work. That's what we do every year as a report card, as a transparency to say, what am I paying for? What do I think I'm getting? Is it valuable? What do I want to do on a go-forward basis? How can I give these guys and gals feedback about the process of what I'm experiencing?
And that's important. It's accountability, right? On the front end, when we get engaged at the beginning, to your point earlier, we say, hey, here's what we think the value is. Here's what we think the cost is and the scope. And then to come back and circle back on that and say, here's the value that we realized. Here's what the cost you paid, and here's what we think it is for next year. It just keeps us accountable to that process. And I think folks that have worked with us for a long time are appreciative to that. They refer back to it, and it allows us to tell the story over time, right? Because sometimes it's, what have you done for me lately? And, all kinds of things can come in. But when we work with clients and add significant value over time, we're always trying to add value, but those report cards really tell the story in a way that, in my experience, clients have been very grateful for.
Yeah, I think so. We have project plans, but I think it also just drives action, right? Because we love delivering those report cards.
Yeah.
And so it drives us even like, I really want to make sure we get this stuff done so that report card looks amazing.
Yeah.
So I think it drives a lot of action.
For sure. It's motivational, right? We want to deliver. We want to make our clients super happy. We want you to tell your friends. We just want you to be happy with the results that you've realized from working with us at the end of the day.
Yeah. So thank you for allowing me to go back to the planning.
No problem.
Let's kick it back to the investments.
All right. So we talked about, getting started with investments, and we really want to understand the goals of the client, what planning has been done, and what the landscape looks like. And then from there, investment management's different than planning. What we've just described is very custom in a lot of cases. You mentioned not scalable, right? It's one-off. Every time it's a little bit unique. Same process, but it's like a custom suit, right? You can come in, but each person's a little different. We're going to measure you. You're going to end up with something that looks beautiful on you, but what looks beautiful on you might not look beautiful on me, right? But investment management's a little bit different. It is more scalable as a business. So if we find a really good alternative investment, many of our clients can benefit from that. Solutions that we provide on stocks, on bonds, we can scale those across our clients. So that it is a more scalable business. And I think earlier we mentioned that 10 out of 10 of our clients use investment management services. I think that's why. Once we kind of get into the investments, we start going through each of the different asset classes, which I'll explain a little bit more, and how we add value and where we go. But it's the same process as the planning. We start working down that road, getting their portfolio constructed and built in a way that meets their objectives and goals and needs. And over time, when they look at it, it's just very well blended with their overall plan. It feels very specific to them, aligned with their goals. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, what drives me in designing portfolio plans and solutions is to have it fit in naturally, not only with who they are, what they're trying to do, but what their plan and landscape looks like too.
What I've noticed is when they see that the planning curated with the right investments is elegant and fits exactly back to their goals, that they feel such a sense of, wow, heard, listened to, not trying to put me into, we're not an in and out or a 1, 2, and 3. You curated something to do exactly what I'm asking you to do. And I really feel heard.
Yep. And then we manage to that, just like with the planning, right? We're accountable to every quarter. We deliver performance reports and we go through market updates, what your composition looks like, what adjustments we might want to make, what's been good, what's been bad, what changes we have made, all of that stuff. So just like with planning, there's a report card, but this case it's every quarter. So,
yeah. And so ultra high net worth families defined as people that are 20 million to $1 billion. You start getting over $1 billion, there's even a new set of solutions. We've had some of those bigger clients that are like, we don't quite have the solutions for them. There's a specific solution set for people that are 20 million to $1 billion.
Yep.
The planning solutions are very specific to, if you're used to serving people 2 to 20 million, it's a whole different set of things that they're doing. That these solutions, whether they be in planning or investments, are totally different than for people that have less money. They can't put these kinds of things in place.
That's correct. I mean, a good example of it, it's a sweet spot that we exist in, right? So investments is a good way to kind of give an example, but alternative investments, we try to partner with emerging managers that are at a point in their own development where they've got a good track record, they've got some good results, good process, good systems, all that, and they're growing, right? And by being able to partner with managers, emerging managers like that, we're able to take down deals that are big enough, right, for qualified purchasers and high net worth clients like we're talking about, but they're not big enough to go to the big firms where they have to be offered to everybody, right? So there's a sweet spot of how do investors of, 20, 50, $100 million access some of these really unique alternative investments. They're not going to be offered by the big shops. And, they're not going to be just found on the internet somewhere like that. You've got to find somebody who can access those, source those, do the due diligence on them, understand what they are, how they fit in with other investments, and why they work for you. And that's really where we kind of specialize from an investment standpoint. And another reason why this particular client is right in the sweet spot of who we can serve.
I call it the Goldilocks strategy, and I think it applies to both planning and investments. On the planning side, the larger you become, the more you are managing to the lowest common denominator. So you're continuing to cut things out that might add value, but gosh, I, as a big firm, am so worried about risk and bottom line, I want to eliminate risk, even though these things might be really good for the client, we are not going to do them. And a perfect example of that is we'll go to the large company. I won't name the names, but the very largest financial institutions, the strategy is pay the tax and bring us the money.
100%.
That's their strategy. They do not want any risk of doing any kind of tax plan. And why? They have to manage the lowest common denominator. They're looking at margins. The lawyers are telling compliance people, we don't want to do that stuff. And so as a medium-sized firm with 50 employees, we're willing to look at those strategies and put them in place. And we're not subject to omitting all errors. We will make errors, but we think it's valuable to clients to do this work and go slow to make sure that we put checks and balances in place to make sure that we've done a good job and dotted all our I's and crossed our T's, but we think it adds enormous value on the planning side. And then I think it's the same with Goldilocks strategy on the investment side.
Exactly.
You can't be too big because you may demand a certain investment. You need 500 million of the investment and they can only produce 50 million. So you're like, I can't offer that stuff, right?
Yep.
Or you're too small. Like you have to be able to deliver 20 million. And you're like, but I can only deliver 5.
Right.
So it's that Goldilocks, can't be too big, can't be too small.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a $20 million deal. One of the big firms isn't going to be able to take down. And, if it requires accreditation or qualified purchasers, smaller firms aren't going to be able to take it down. So it's a very unique firm like ours that's able to take down those kinds of deals. And I think what's unique is that we've built the systems and people and processes to do the diligence and do the vetting so that we're not just blindly picking these because there's risk there, right? But we have a really great investment team and due diligence process. There's other podcasts on that, but we tear this stuff apart. And so when we end up recommending things, we feel very confident about why we're selecting it, why we're recommending it, how it fits together with maybe planning or their situation. But I think it's unique. And I've been doing this since 2006, and what we do here is special. And there's not a lot of other firms that offer it from an investment standpoint. It's where I'm speaking planning as well, but specifically from investments.
I just say we eat our own cooking.
For sure.
The strategies I put in my own life on planning, all the investments I put in, or most all the investments. So eating your own cooking really, says you have conviction.
Yeah, we fully believe in what we're doing and we're passionate about it. And I think that comes across, when we're doing the work for our clients.
Yeah. Well, that went by fast, RJ. We're already 26 minutes in. Sean, why don't you give us any closing thoughts that the listening audience should think about?
Yeah, I think just in closing, what's like I said, I've been doing this since 2006. I've worked at big firms, small firms in between. What we're doing here is really special. I think the clients that work with us are passionate about working with us, and we're passionate about working with them. And it's a really symbiotic relationship in that regard. And I think they get a lot of value out of it. I think we get a lot of value out of it. And that's what creates these long-term relationships. So, lots of folks that end up here, they've gone through different firms. They've interviewed lots of different advisors. They've seen lots of different things, had lots of different experiences. And I think in the 7+ years that I've been here, the consistent feedback I hear is you guys are different. There's something unique here. And so if you find yourself interested by what we're talking about, or that maybe you should take a look at what else is out there, some creative thinking and different ways of doing stuff, I think we're a very good firm to show you some of those ideas.
Yeah. And I think that what we tell folks is rather than tell you that we're different. We just want to show you, give you an experience.
Yeah.
Let you tell us if you think
Fair enough. Yeah. Give us a shot. We'll show you what we do and let us know.
Yeah. So, RJ, you want to take us out today?
Sure, but first, how about some contact information for both of you?
Yeah, or you can reach either one of us from our website at Centura Wealth. That's spelled Centura Wealth.com. And you can find Shawnee Clark's contact info there. You can find my contact info. Send us an email or give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. And the last thank you always goes to the listening audience. Thank you very much for listening today. We are so appreciative you take the time to listen to the material that we put out. And with this, I'm going to throw it over to RJ to take us out.
All right. Thank you, Derek and Sean. Fascinating podcast. It was very enjoyable to listen to. And if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. This way, when the team comes out with a new podcast, it will show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, because this actually helps others find the show. Again, thank you for listening. And for everyone at Centura Wealth Advisory, I'm RJ Malik, reminding you to live your best day every day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Live Life Liberated podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Centura Wealth Advisory. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Centura Wealth Advisory, Centura, is an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in San Diego, California. Centura and its representatives are in compliance with the current registration and notice filing requirements imposed on SEC-registered investment advisors, in which Centura maintains clients. Centura may only transact business in those states in which it is notice filed or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from notice filing requirements. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Tax relief varies based on client circumstances, and all clients do not achieve the same results.